since I'm often the one who does the introducing, I won't get an introduction, but I'm going to be pretty quick tonight. I don't have a whole lot of slides or a very long presentation, maybe just about 10-15 minutes. But as many of you know, I've been involved with ISSA for a long time. This is my last ISSA meeting. I'm moving out of the area and on to some other things. So I thought it would be really a good thing to talk about InfoSec community and communities like this one and so on would be a good topic, especially since this is like really our 2-year anniversary, which is hard for me to believe. I didn't even know that coming in here. I was going to be like, oh yeah, 1.5 years. It's 2 years. It's nuts. Yeah, that's crazy. Time flies. So if you don't know me, I work for FireEye. My background's mostly in Department of Defense work. I spend a lot of time building tools and security operations centers, detecting bad guys, and running a couple different components of SOCs across a couple different components of the Department of Defense. Like I said, I work for FireEye right now, and as of a couple months ago, I've gone back to school, still with FireEye, but working on my PhD, and work a PhD in cognitive psychology, in an effort to try to understand human cognitive processes and apply those to how we now. I'm out of sight of the camera. Okay. Basically in a community right now. So what that is particularly just a group of like-minded individuals gathering to do something. In our case, we gather generally to learn about stuff, right? That's why y'all are here. You learn stuff from the other guy. I'm going to tell some jokes. You probably won't learn much from me though, but I'll try. So the big thing involved is obviously why are we talking about this? Again, it's my last meeting, and I have a vested interest in this chapter, and I want to see it continue to grow well after I'm gone. And so I thought, thinking about community, what are some of the lessons I've learned through my time investing time in other InfoSec communities? This one and some other ones I've done. Some of them were successful. Obviously, this one's very successful. We have 35 people here tonight. I've done some that have just horribly failed. So I learned a few things there, both good and bad, and I thought that would be worth talking about, just for the benefit of the folks here for investing in this community. And some of you, like I'm about to do, are going to be moving on elsewhere, and you may want to participate in another InfoSec community or start your own in some degree. So that's really kind of the purpose of what we're doing here. I mentioned that I've been involved in a few different communities. The red's hard to see. The red ones are ones where I've had some leadership role. The yellow ones were ones where I've just been a member or have had some type of other role. Augusta at the bottom is where I'll be relatively close to where I'm moving. But so a few different ones. Some of those were successful, some were failures. All of them very, very different. But needless to say, I've done a lot with different types of InfoSec communities. So why are we building? Well, the first thing I said is we have common goals and interests, right? The big thing we all have, and the thing I talk about a lot, I'm going to talk about more, is education. We all want to get smarter, we want to learn more, and because of that, we get together. You have folks stand up here and ramble for about an hour, and hopefully folks learn about it. And then we do things like ask questions, right? Like we just had a couple dialogues going on a minute ago where people were asked questions, doing some back and forth. That's really the best part of this whole thing. We've had meetings where sometimes the questions have gone on longer than the presentation. That's great. That's what we love, and I think we all get the most out of that. So common goals. When we talk about common mission, there's obviously something to be said for the job we're doing in information security, protecting assets. There's a lot of ways to describe the various jobs we do. I think the best job description I ever got was from my wife's 88-year-old grandmother. Never used a computer a day in her life, doesn't know anything about any of that. But when someone asked her, we were there one day, and so it was like, well, Mamaw? She's from Georgia, so it's a Mamaw. Mamaw, what does Chris do? Do you know what he does? And she's like, well, I don't really understand exactly what he does, but he keeps people from taking things that don't belong to them, and that's a good thing, right? It's kind of gets you right in the feels, doesn't it? Right? So that's really the business we're all in. We keep people from stealing assets, generally information assets. We keep people from stealing time. We're talking about denial of services, taking assets down, causing us to use our time, which costs money, and stealing something, whether it's a data asset or a time asset, we're keeping people from stealing. And that's really what we're in the business of. I think it's really easy to forget that, but that's what we're doing, and that's a common mission we have. So it's very important. The other thing is that bad guys build communities of practice in InfoSec communities, right? They've been doing it for as long as we have. Many of you have probably heard of Lizard Squad, Anonymous, Cutting Sword of Justice, various cybercrime groups who get together. They have a common interest, obviously. Anybody remember the Cutting Sword of Justice? Anybody know what attack they perpetrated? Saudi Aramco. 30,000 computers flatlined in a couple seconds. So they had a common goal. right? It was a political, social goal, but they had a common goal, a common interest in InfoSec, and they achieved their goal that way. So that's a bad example of a community, but the fact is the bad guys do it, so we need to do it too. Bad guys are obviously far ahead of us, or they used to be in this. We're catching up, and I think we're doing a lot better. I've already mentioned we get better, we learn from each other. And the last thing is human nature, right? If you ask a lot of social psychologists, if you say you take 100 square miles, an island 100 square miles big, put a person at each of the four corners, within not a very large amount of time, they will have found each other in the center of the map, elected a leader, and started charging membership dues. So people by nature are social. By nature they get together. By nature we evaluate ourselves by comparing ourselves to others, whether we realize it or not. That's proven science. So it's our nature to get together and want to share things and learn from each other that way. So I built this pretty picture here to talk about the four components I'm going to go into next. I started thinking about the things that really make for a good InfoSec community, particularly things I've noticed in communities that thrive versus the ones who don't. And so those four things here: community, networking, education, and innovation. Yes, community, being a part of a community, is very meta, and that is not lost on me. So education is a foundation. I'm obviously biased because I ran the education component of this chapter for so long, but ultimately I think we have a very big need for education. This quote right here is from a Kansas State University ethnographic research study. I've used it in other presentations, many of you have probably seen it. But basically what it tells us is that knowledge is tacit. Even the folks in this job who are really, really good at what they do can't often tell us why they are so good at it. Right? There are a lot of things I do, like I feel like I'm good at them, but if I had to explain them to someone who wasn't so good at them, probably wouldn't do a good job at it. The same goes for everybody. The same goes for Corsi, for Chad. Like there's a lot of things we just do that we're good at, and we can't tell people how we do it. Fair enough. So that's a big problem. It's not as big a problem in other fields. It's not unique to us either, right? My wife's a physician, and they have the same problem. They've got about a couple thousand years head start on us as a profession, and it's still a problem they face. So it's not something we'll ever overcome. It's something we can certainly get better at. Practitioners value knowledge above all else. I think we know this. In information security, we all generally love to learn. Pretty much across the board, right? Like everybody loves to learn stuff, or else why would you be here? Why would you waste an hour of your time on a Thursday night? So we love to learn. That's something I think not totally unique to our field, but very unique and something that has kind of pushed the field along. Education delivery, I wanted to talk a little bit about, from my experience, the different ways to deliver education to people and where the value really lies. Your mileage may vary with some of this, but I broke them into three basic groups: low, medium, and high value. The low value stuff, mailing list, blog posts, discounts for remote training options. People generally don't participate. They don't read if you're not forcing them to do it. You don't get a lot of this. And you'll notice the trend as we move from the right to the low value to the high value. This could actually have an arrow going the other way, saying which one requires the most work, right? Because this stuff right here doesn't require a lot of work. The meeting sessions, I'm talking about the thing we're doing right now. I put that in medium because it really depends on the topics, as well as a bunch of other things and how hands-on it is, the speakers, so on. But meeting sessions can range from low value to high value, depending on how you do them. From my experience, the biggest thing and the most important to getting people to keep coming back is consistency in your meetings. I know with ISSA, when we started out, we said, okay, we're going to at least try to be, when we have a meeting, it's going to be on the third Thursday of every month. Or at least if we have it in a month, it will be on that third Thursday. And I think that's helped solidify and get people here. And we try to certainly be every month, but that doesn't always work out. But most months. So some consistency, people knowing, oh, it's the third Thursday of the month and I have nothing to do. Maybe I'll look and see what the ISSA is doing. That helps. And the high value things are really the things that go the most in depth, quite honestly, or are hands-on. People love hands-on. It doesn't always fit everything. We don't do a lot of hands-on at these meetings just because after people have worked a long day, they generally don't want to come and bring their laptops and get into it. And generally there's only so much you can do within an hour. So that's a little more challenging. The local training, we've done a few of those. I know each one we've done. I think one of them had a little over 50 people at it, and the other one had just over 40. So definitely some of our most high value, high interaction stuff. CTFs, Capture the Flags, also very huge. We did the one at B-Sides Charleston last year. I don't remember the number, but it was very well attended. Do you know how many folks participated in that, Chad? 9,000? Over 9,000.
Maybe like 40 people.
40 people, yeah, great, exactly. So great numbers. And I think the good thing about the CTFs is I think oftentimes the folks running the CTF get just as much out of it, if not more, than the people participating in it. That's the case for myself, and I think, and of course he's shaking his head yes, for sure. So those are great things. Anything hands-on. Even with the trainings, more hands-on the better. I did the packet analysis training, I guess it's been a year ago now. And we did some hands-on, but really the thing I got from that even was we want more hands-on, right? People want to get their hands dirty, especially when they go to these 4 or 5 hour events. Networking. Networking is one of the other components I talked about, and this is another thing, talk about the nature of InfoSec practitioners. And this isn't a blanket statement, it doesn't apply to everyone, but let's be honest that most people who are in InfoSec may be a little antisocial. And maybe they're not antisocial, but maybe they're a little introverted, right? Generally, unless you give them a really good reason or pull them out, you're not going to come out and be social. So, giving people a united thing to talk about really helps get people out and get people talking. As an introverted guy myself, a lot less now than I used to be, I would go to these meetings, and when I was in college, I was super shy. Like, I didn't leave my dorm unless I had to go to class, mostly. But then there was a student group that started meeting, and one day they were talking about hacking cable modems. And I was like, I've done some of that, all legally, of course, but I've done some of that. I want to go to one of these meetings. So that got me out of my shell and got me going to this meeting. I met a lot of friends who are still friends today. Also learned a lot, so it was pretty cool. Of course, he talked about connecting job seekers to providers, right? That's one of the big callings is, if I need a job, I need to meet people who have jobs. If I have jobs, as someone who hires people, it's really hard to find good people. I'm sure many of you are in hiring positions, and it's not always the easiest to find people who can fill those slots. So things like this, communities of practice, give people opportunities to do that. This applies not only to security jobs. I think we all know at this point, every facet of technology is touched by security. You don't just have programmers anymore. You have programmers who have to understand security. You don't just have network admins anymore. You have people who have to understand firewalls and IDSs and things like that. It's everywhere now. Security itself is not even really such a job sector as it is interwoven into the fabric that is information technology, so that's very important. The last point is really cool because sometimes we simply don't know about each other. And I have two examples of that. Has anybody seen the Boomtown map? Right? How many people knew that there were this many tech companies in Charleston before this came out? I didn't.
It's just a month ago, right?
Yeah. It's been out a little longer, not much. But these are all tech companies of some sort. I didn't know all these were here. If you would have had to ask me how many were here, I probably would have said maybe a dozen, right? But yeah, tons. So that's kind of a macro example of that. Let me give you one that's really personal. When I started ISSA, I didn't know David Corsi. This is where I lived 2 years ago. This is where he lived 2 years ago. You'll see, as the crow flies, that's about 0.3 miles. Literally, about 3 or 4 times a week, I would get up in the morning, ride my bike, and I would go a little route, and that route would take me right past his house. We're great friends now. We have a lot in common. We obviously share an interest in information security and have helped build part of this community, but we just simply didn't know each other existed until we met through a mutual friend and this whole thing happened. So you never know what's right under your nose there. Of course, after we met, Corsi immediately moved. He says it's not related, but...
Did the bicycle trips continue after that?
I had to look out a little better.
Slowly in the mornings?
Yeah. So when we talk about local communities, that's an important part of it too, right? This chapter I don't think would be half as impactful as it is if we hadn't have invested in our local community and the community hadn't invested in us. We're in a great position because we're in Charleston and people understand the value of tech, they understand the value of security, and that makes things a lot easier for us. I've been in places before. How many people know where Mayfield, Kentucky is? I don't believe you.
I'm from Westwood, Kentucky.
Oh, okay. So basically my point is nobody, unless you're from West Kentucky, nobody knows where Mayfield, Kentucky is. And so Mayfield, Kentucky really still doesn't value security and IT as much as they should. And I came out of that, and that was a problem when I talk about failures in the Murray State University Cybersecurity Club. It was really a failure just because nobody would really buy into it except for a few CS students who had a little bit of interest. The faculty weren't bought in. The non-CS faculty didn't care. The Chamber of Commerce, no interest. We just kind of floundered out and died in that sense because nobody cared. We're fortunate here that people do care.
How do you get that in mind?
That's my next point. But well, yeah, that's the thing. If your community doesn't care, you need to try to educate them and make them. It doesn't always work. It's not easy. It's not a fast win. It's a slow game. It's really about educating them, and it's about making it real for people, right? One of the ways to make it the most real for people is do internet safety training. That's a lot easier now because we have a lot of examples that show, people getting hacked into and information being made public. That's a lot easier to do. But one of the things I know we tried to do in Mayfield and some of is we started going around to senior citizen homes and teaching them how to use computers, right? Like at this time it was very simple stuff. How to use email so they could get pictures from their family, how to use eBay. It was always pictures and eBay was the real things we were going to ask for. Anyway, but we would go around and do some of that, go around to local elementary, middle, and high schools, teach about internet safety tips for kids, invite the parents out, get the parents involved, be like, here's things you can do to make sure your kid is safe on the internet. That's a concern for everybody. I know we got parents in here, and I'm sure we're all concerned about it. So that's really the big thing I've taken away as far as getting your community invested is making it real for them. Right, and that's very important. All I'd say, communities have good reason to invest in information security. We all know this. Talent, high-paying jobs, prestige. I know Charleston takes it very seriously. I mean, the term Silicon Harbor has been thrown out many, many times. People get a lot of prestige from these things, get a lot of value. I'm sure if you were asking Nikki Haley the same question, she would strongly agree about South Carolina as a whole, about the value of these jobs and how they want them. So that's very important. Who to work with, really anybody who will work with you. I know we've had a lot of luck advertising and working a little bit through the Chamber of Commerce, the local tech accelerators. I don't have it on here, but local businesses have been very important to us in helping us get the word out and get other people within their organizations involved. We're fortunate to have a military base that's very active here, and SPAWAR has been very helpful. I know several of y'all are SPAWAR folks. I worked at SPAWAR for a little while. They've been helpful in getting folks out here. Local colleges. Many of you are familiar with our relationship with College of Charleston. I could sit in the crowd and point several of those folks out right now. Some are still going to college, some are out in the industry now and are advocating for us and doing things that way. So providing educational opportunities to the college, those folks that you're training are eventually going to be your membership as you get bigger and all that. So that's very important. And then local media. We haven't honestly done as much with local media as I wanted to here. We've done a little bit, but if you can get them to embrace this and get those news stories out, that's certainly a good thing to do. So the last thing on the pyramid, I had education at the center of it, networking community, and the last one is the arrow that points up, and that's really talking about innovation. And innovation is the nature of such is that I can't really define what it is, but simply put, our field's very young. The common phrase and thought that's used in academia is that when we have a community of knowledge and a community of practice, it's our job as practitioners to further the body of knowledge that exists within that. And that's a very sciencey thing, and you could call what we do science, you could call it engineering, you could call it art if you want to, I don't care. But generally we need to, as our world gets more dependent upon these things, we need to generally further the body of knowledge. And when we come together as communities, that's really kind of how that happens and how innovation happens. So it's not a very common thing that innovation happens out of small regional groups like this, but I won't say it won't happen either. I know I'm in a job where I feel like I get to impact a lot of these big picture things every day in Mandy and FireEye, and I know several of the things I've learned from this group and others who have been part of this have certainly helped me impact, I think, the world on a bigger scale, and I'm sure there are other folks in the audience who may feel the same way. So that's very important and very a big facet of this as well. So that's all I have to say. Like I said, I think I know a lot of you in the audience, and this is my last meeting. Charleston-ISSA has been very, very close to my heart for a long time. Really, it's been a pleasure. I've made a lot of great friends through this, and it's just been an awesome time. So for those of you that I know personally and that have come, certainly appreciate it, and thank you for everything, and I'll be seeing some of y'all around.